an introduction, and then we'll dive in some questions. So happy Sunday, everyone. Happy, daylight saving day. Everybody is now adjusting to the new hour. So thanks for jumping in. I know it could be a little bit earlier on some folks, who joined from Vancouver or other locations, but we're always delighted to have you join this community call. So again, my name is Ahmed Zayed. I'm an IT professional. I used to, help this community since almost COVID. We've been running this call almost weekly since COVID time. It helped more than 700 professionals land jobs in US and Canada in the past few years. And definitely our community is growing and we're trying to help as much as possible in this tough time. Myself, I've worked in companies like Microsoft, Cisco, Indeed, PwC, and others. I'm an IT professional program manager, and now I'm running my own business, futurecareer.net, as a career coaching, consulting, and training. This call is free. There is no obligation to anyone. We're just doing it to help the community and share the wisdom. And I'm always happy to invite, other speakers, guests like Eleni and others who, again, share a ton of wisdom with this community. I'll pause here and hand it over to Eleni to give an introduction and then move on to Mahmoud and Neil Jonathan.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I think maybe some of you have met me before. My name's Eleni. I'm an internal recruiter right now at an AI company out of Silicon Valley. I've been doing recruiting almost going on 11 years, which is crazy to say. But yeah, I actually placed Ahmed at PwC, if I'm not mistaken, as a contractor many, many years ago. But yeah, I've kind of been helping out where I can, hopping on these calls. Really happy to kind of answer any questions around the interview process, around resume preparation, just the job search in general. I was actually laid off in April. It took me 6 months to find a job. I'm at the competitor now, funny enough, but I know what the struggle is. I know what it's like reaching out to recruiters, and it's funny because people think there's like a rhyme and a reason. And even some of the jobs that I've applied for, I'm like, why out of all the jobs is this the one that I got picked for an interview out of the, let's say, 100 over 6 months that I applied to? And yeah, again, it's a very, very competitive market right now. The jobs we're posting have literally over sometimes 2,000 applicants for a role. So yeah, happy to kind of chat people through how to navigate it and answer any questions. And thanks for having me
Thanks.
again.
Oh, you're much welcome. Thanks, Eleni. Mahmoud, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mahmoud or Coach Mo, and I've been also in the IT industry for 25 years plus today at tier one consulting firms and market leaders. 15 years plus ago, I become an independent contractor. So what that means is I'm in the trenches like you guys. Every year I'm looking for 2 to 3 projects. So I get into the interviewing process like any one of you looking for a job. I'm also an entrepreneur and a coach, so I hire people as well. So I'm at the receiving side of applications at one point. And I'm also 15 years trained in emotional intelligence and human interactions, and I've been applying that in most of my job hunts, right? Making the job, I won't say as easy, but at least it's peaceful and stress-free. And that's what the experience I want to usually share with job seekers, having them get their job faster and easier.
Thanks, Mahmoud. Neil, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my name is Neil Robertson. I have 28 years as an IT pro focused on technical sales consulting, so pre-sales. Prior to that, I was a geoeconomist and a geologist, so I know what it's like to do a massive career switch later in life. And I retired a couple of years ago from Microsoft. So I worked for quite a number of big corporations like Oracle, Microsoft, SAP, VMware. So you can make big switches and you can work for tier one type companies. It's just how you approach it. So I'm happy to help out where I can.
Thank you, Neil. Jonathan, I'm not sure if you're able to do an intro or should we go next?
For sure, absolutely. Happy to be here. It's great to see Eleni and the rest of the crew. I'm mobile, so I'll be on camera when I get back to the house. But my name's Jonathan Tennis. I'm a program manager. Spent most of my career in the NATSAC space in the U.S. government. Cleared PM, so I spent a lot of time focused on helping folks transition from the military into the civilian sector and kind of leverage those skills that they've developed over the years, and be able to use that in the private and public sector. So happy to be here. Really looking forward to connecting with everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, so again, this call, guys, is for you to ask questions. Our theme today is again tips and tricks and secrets of hiring. So maybe we'll kick it off maybe by giving Eleni, a few minutes to share some of what helped her get back on the job market. Giving this was a really tough market and it's still a tough market. With the recession, with AI, with everything that is happening today. So let's maybe give Eleni time to share her wisdom, and then we can definitely jump in as a group to ask more questions. Again, please raise your hand or type the question in the chat so that we can take the turns here. Go ahead, Eleni.
Awesome. Yeah, so definitely would love to kind of walk through my experience. So I'm HR. I don't know, some people know that recruiting is HR. Some of them, or some people don't know that, especially at smaller companies. I specialize at early stage startups. So I'll normally join a company between 20 and 50 employees, and then grow it anywhere between 200 and 300 employees. But yeah, my last company, I was there for about 2.5 years, a little bit over. Phenomenal culture, phenomenal product. But unfortunately, it was a company that people weren't really held to the highest of standards, and we had 40% of the company doing 80% of the work. So obviously, naturally, revenue and money was not as high as we needed it to be. Our investors decided that hiring is a luxury, and it really is. A lot of companies, and just so people know as well, if you're applying to big organizations, normally they'll have recruiting teams, but there are some smaller companies that it's the hiring managers kind of going through Indeed or going through LinkedIn and trying to do it themselves just for, again, cost. And yeah, so I got laid off. I was devastated because, again, the first thing you think of is money. Am I going to be happy again in my next job? I already knew how competitive the landscape was because as a recruiter, I was seeing all the people applying. And normally in roles like mine, you don't have massive HR teams. It's normally maybe 2 or 3 recruiters, depending on, yes, I will share. Perfect. 2 or 3 recruiters, depending on the side of the company. But I was laid off. Lucky enough, my old CEO from the company that I'd worked at before, it's actually a company out of Ottawa called Rewind. He reached out to me. They had a few people on a maternity leave, and he was like, "We'd love to have you like for the summer to help us out." And I was like, "Amazing. I love to stay busy." And I did that for 8 weeks. After that, I said, "You know what? I'm going to honestly apply to jobs." I was applying to a few of them here and there, but I said it's time to kind of come up with my job search, make a list of the companies I want to go after, what roles I want to go on. Can I take a pay cut? Am I looking for more money? Really kind of figuring out what I wanted in that next step. And I had no idea how competitive the landscape was from the candidate standpoint. I could speak to the recruiter side, but I was applying to, I would say, intentionally probably around 8 jobs a week. And just no calls. I was adding the recruiters. I was sending the notes that, again, everyone kind of just thinks is the next best step. But yeah, I just posted a recruiting role last week, and I think I have about 600 LinkedIn requests in my inbox. So recruiters right now are just getting flooded with messages, and especially on LinkedIn, because that's people's instinct of where to go. But it's really what other levers can be pulled to get recruiters' attention that aren't going to just put you into a massive pool. So the first thing I say, I ended up getting, I want to say 5 interviews, and 3 of them were from people in my network. Tap into your network. It is the best thing that you can do. And I've seen so many posts recently of people saying, like, you have to keep networking, you have to keep networking. And some people saying, like, that's not the answer. I guarantee showing up to these calls, reaching out to people that you know at companies that are attractive to you are going to be the best thing. And this sounds really kind of crass and dry, but do not plan to change industries anytime soon. Stick to what you know, stick to where you can add value, especially if you are late stage in a job search and it's a matter of like, I need a job right now for financial reasons, or you know what I mean? A lot of people have a lot of optimism and it's amazing. I would say this is not the market for that. If you have the ability and the luxury to kind of start a side gig, or you want to find a hobby, like that is where you can do that. But I will say the reason that I got a job because I went to my company's direct employer. And again, if would I have had a job even in 6 months if I hadn't decided that I was going to make that switch? I don't know. But I would say it really did open up my eye to the best time to get a job is when you have a job as well. Don't wait until you anticipate a layoff, or if you have rifts at your current company, keep your ear to the ground as best as you can and be proactive, because some of these companies can afford 8-week packages, 4-week packages, 16 weeks, but some of them can only afford 2. So I would say right now, even if you're happy in your role, still go out and look at what the market has to offer, because like I've said in so many of these calls, there's no guarantee at a big company that you're going to be safe, just like there's no guarantee at a startup that they're going to have that stability to keep you. So I'll pause there. I know that that was a mouthful. Happy to take questions or hand it over to anybody.
Definitely great wisdom. Again, I agree with you 100%, Eleni. And we're just hearing every day now, companies lay off, people. And again, sometimes it's just a decision. I was just chatting with Mahmoud before this call. It's not about performance. It's not about that you're not a
Yeah.
good person. It's just a decision, a business decision. At the end of the day, employees are numbers to those big companies. They just again want to share with investors or shareholder that they are doing the same thing with less number of people that would make the stocks or the market look better. So that's again, so don't take it personal if you got laid off. It's not about you or your performance. It's a business decision, and that's life today.
Yeah. And I think I've been laid off twice, actually, both my companies. Mind you, they were both startups, and my whole team was eliminated. It was, again, a luxury to have those recruiters. And the first time I got laid off, I took it so personally and I was mortified. I was like, what did I not do? And as you grow, and again, I have more insight, I'll say, because I'm HR, it really is not bottom 10%, bottom 20, bottom 30. It is. And I'm sure there are some people that, again, get grouped into layoffs because of performance. But if you know that you're hitting your numbers, or you know that you're performing well and your feedback and professional development has been on route, it really is, it's business. And I stress so much. I love to work. I have my Slack on my phone, my email, I'm after hours all the time because I enjoy that. And it's just part of how I find peace in my workday. But I tell people, do not work harder than you need to for these companies, because when push comes to shove, whether you're the right hand of the CEO or you're an entry level BDR, SDR, you are a number. It doesn't matter how big the company is as well. I was at a company of 100 people. You still carry that number. So work as hard as you need to get the job done and progress in your career, and obviously be ethical. But yeah, I've seen people get laid off that were working 80-hour weeks, and their severance is the same as somebody that really did show up for the 9 to 5. So mental health wise too, I think it's important for people to understand kind of level of effort that should be maintained.
Agree. And again, I think, maybe since you're now hiring as well, Eleni, and you know a little bit more about, what's the hiring process.
Yeah.
And I've seen that the hiring process has extended longer, and there is more demand, and there is so many other assignments or assessments or exercises, take home, and those kind of situation. So many people are not used to, unfortunately, and they are not ready to do, so they panic. So what's your, let's say, wisdom about, handling those kind of assessments, when you are shortlisted to go through those assessments, and you have to, build your, let's say, public speaking or communication style during those assessments. What do you suggest? How do we prepare for those kind of assessments? And I think you've been in some of those already. You've done, some of those exercises. So please go ahead and share your wisdom. And again, Mo and Neil, Jonathan, feel free to chime in if you have other wisdom, and also the folks, if you have questions, this is for you. We can keep chatting forever, but I want to definitely give you wisdom. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So at the size of company that I'm at, take homes are an absolute mandatory. We're a startup. We don't unfortunately have the luxury of making a bad hire based on conversations. And I said that very clearly to my CEO when I had started. There were some roles that we were a little bit looser on, and it was just a conversation with me, maybe a conversation with a leader, and then my CEO. And then we get the person in and we realize, had we executed a simple task, we would have been able to see more depth of what they're able to do. So yeah, very natural in the recruiting process today. Normally, standard at most companies is you meet with the recruiter, you'll meet with the hiring manager, you either then meet with the team and then a take home, or the take home and then the team. And then again, maybe you'll meet with an executive. I would say always always schedule a call with the manager after you get the take home. A lot of the times I provide 5 days, but well, 7 realistically. But if I give it to you on a Wednesday, I'm going to give you 7 days for the candidates that don't reach out and say, hey, Eleni, thank you so much for sending this over. Would there be 15 minutes, like just a quick sync that I could sync with Ahmed just to ensure that, again, I'm on the right track and review, like, why not use the resources that you can? If they say no, then obviously I think that's weird, but I've never worked for a company that has said no. And candidates that were going left made a sharp veer right, and we ended up hiring them. But just the value of being able to reiterate that you understand the task that is being asked. At my company right now, and it's honestly, I don't want to say it's a terrible example, our bar is so high for the people that we bring in. I'm hiring an account executive right now, and one of the questions in the take home was for the candidates to come up with a pricing matrix for the tool. And like, how would you be able to do that? It would be completely guesstimation. And 3 of the account executives that I'm interviewing, 2 of them asked for meetings with the hiring manager. We're moving them forward to meet with our CEO now. The one that didn't ask didn't get it right. And it's not that we set them up for failure. It's that, again, you have that opportunity. So I would say, number 1, always confirm when they would like the task back, because there's a difference in a 2-day task and a difference in a 7-day task. When I got interviewed for this job, I had 2 days. It looked like it was 7 days because I wanted to make sure it was clean. But some people have children, they have jobs, they have things going on. So you're not going to be able to make a slide deck in 2 days that you're going to be able to make in 7. So first one is establish a timeline. Then I would ask if there's an opportunity to sync quickly with the hiring manager ahead of time. Make sure that you go onto the company's website, and if it is a slide deck that you're presenting, try and get images from the website as far as their logos. Those little touches show that this is what it could look like if I was actually at the company internally. So as much as Microsoft and Google Slides has tons of great templates, try and go on with like the theme of the company. And then outside of that, practice. If it is a presentation, call your parents, call your spouse, cousins, old coworkers, get them to kind of give you feedback on the presentation, because the more times you practice, the better it's going to be. The last thing I would say is to kind of go up there and wing it, or just feel like you're going to be able to talk to the slides, because it is nerve-wracking. I did public speaking when I was younger, and I still sweat through my clothes when I get on with, let's say, an executive team of 5 that I've never met. I might come like across cool and collected, but it is a very, very stressful process. So yeah, I would say number 1, establish the timeline. Number 2, book a call with the hiring manager before. Don't wait 2 days before the presentation. Try and book it as soon as you can so you can have a list of questions. If they're not available, ask if you can email questions over. And if they're not too many questions, maybe just send that email over. And then yeah, practice and ensure that you know what they're asking of you.
Well, amazing. Ton of wisdom in very short time, as usual. Thank you so much. And again, yeah, no, again, it's amazing, and this is brilliant. Coach Mo, Neil, Jonathan, any comments, feedback, anything you want to share with the group here? Or again, if the group have any questions, please raise your hand. We're happy to answer your questions. Okay, Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, that's all really great stuff. I've never had to do those tasks, so I don't know what that's like. A comment earlier on about switching careers. I would just caveat that is I've done that. I've done it and been successful. However, I didn't do it because the market wasn't good. I did it because it was what I really wanted, was to switch the career. If you do it because the market's not good, it comes through in your approach and how you interview. You come across as someone you're not doing it because you're really interested. You're just doing it because you're trying to save yourself. And that doesn't, people are way more intuitive in interviews than you might think. Just think about how intuitive you are when you walk up to somebody and you're talking to them and you start reading them like a book, and you can be pretty accurate to some degree. So I would suggest that if you're looking at a career change, like I didn't really care about the economy. I didn't really understand it, I guess, at the time. But anyways, just make sure you're going in it for the right reasons, because it will impact how you do your work too, by the way. That's the only thing
Thanks, Neil. Mo, any other follow-ups from your side? And Jonathan?
It's an amazing conversation, and I can have tons of comments and feedback, but I really want to, keep my mouth shut so that the folks on the call could have more opportunity to talk. Eleni spoke to so many aspects, and they're really solid. So I'll soak in the wisdom for now.
Thanks, Coach Mo. Okay, guys. Again, please raise your hand and ask questions. This is for you. Like you have an opportunity with a brilliant recruiter here, and great panel of coaches. They are here to help you. So definitely just think about your biggest challenge. What's blocking you today? During your journey, and how can we help you? Okay, Ghadir, go ahead.
Hi everyone. So my name is Gadir Al Batarni. So actually I changed my career from physics into software development. And I found that I really love this field because when I was younger, um, I love math and all of that logical thinking, and software engineer, it's very related to math. So, but actually, so I graduated last year and now I got the first internship, and also I'm doing another internship right now, but I'm struggling into landing like a job. So is there any tips for someone who is just like new into this field, into how to land that job? Like it's easy to find internships, but most of the time it's unpaid. Like I get it for the experience because I need to show that, yeah, like I have some hands-on experience, but at the same time I need, like full-time paid job. So is there any tips or
So,
advice for
and
someone who's just trying to get into the industry?
and you're in Canada, Ghadir, right? You're in
Yes,
Ontario.
yeah.
Okay, Eleni, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So just to make sure that I got it correct, you were in physics and now you're in data?
Software development. Yeah, I was in physics and I studied a program called computer application development. So like I have some experience building web applications using Stack. And for this internship, I'm using React Native to develop mobile apps. So yeah, this is the last one that I'm doing right now.
Okay. I would probably start with, if React Native is like what you're most familiar with and you're more new, start with finding out what companies use React. Like I know the last company I worked at in Ottawa, Rewind, is a company that use React. We don't use it at the company that we're at now. But I would start with finding what you're strongest at and what companies utilize that. And then I would go from there. As far as status, are you a permanent resident?
Yes, I'm a permanent resident.
So you would need an HB1?
She's in Canada. She's in Canada. She's a permanent resident in Canada.
Oh, permanent resident. Sorry, I'm thinking America because I'm talking American. But okay, perfect. So as far as work goes, you're okay to work. So I would definitely put that on your resume as well to let them know, like permanent resident status as you go to interview. Outside of that, again, this sounds so terrible, but I wish I had more advice to give you in how to get jobs without the job experience other than internships or tapping into your network. Because it's a shot in the barrel right now, because there are going to be people that have experience that you're going to be having to go up against. So I would say, again, right now, really kind of utilizing that network, using LinkedIn. Have you posted on LinkedIn that you're looking for a job?
I didn't. I have like that open to work.
Yeah, no,
but
I would go and make a post on your LinkedIn, connect with as many people as possible. For me, I think when I was looking for a job, I was too proud to go and post on LinkedIn at the point that I was in, because as much as I wanted a job, I wasn't in a sense that I needed a job right then. And I said to myself, by the end of October, if I don't get a job, I'm going to go out to LinkedIn and post to my network. Luckily, I ended up getting employed before then. But yeah, the first thing you should be doing if you're looking for a job is going on LinkedIn and sharing with LinkedIn that you are looking for a job. There are so many phenomenally kind people that will just like the post and tag somebody that they know, saying, I know you're looking for a software developer. You know what I mean? Like there is such a massive outpour of recognition because so many people have been laid off recently. I just posted a recruiter job, like I said, last week. I had 14 reshares, and like 11 of the people I had never met, but they saw it from someone that saw it, that someone from saw it. Like it was just a beautiful ripple effect. And there were so many people that were referring people. So first thing I would do in your case is go on LinkedIn, use ChatGPT, write a thoughtful but organic and real message, letting people know you're recently new into software development space, you're skilled in React, you're looking for any opportunities that are early career, happy to work contract to permanent, like kind of be offering those different I guess the different levers that you can pull. But outside of that, I would say keep applying. Also look at early stage companies, because some of them don't have the funds that big companies have, and they're willing to take a risk on more entry level talent because you're going to be growing with the company. So that's what I could say that for now. But the first thing I would do is maybe Thursday of this week. There are certain, I was think like either Monday morning or Thursday or Sunday are like the best times to post on LinkedIn, because that's normally when people are scrolling. But if you can get it written by tomorrow, it would be great, like first thing Monday morning, to push that out. Like, hi network, wishing you like all a great week. Wanted to let everybody know that I'm open to work. I'm looking for XYZ. And yeah, definitely I would connect with as many people as possible as well on LinkedIn. The more connections, the more visibility.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
No worries.
Awesome. Neil, I think you have a follow-up.
Yeah, just it can be difficult to figure out if you're struggling to who actually uses React in the companies. There's a number of React groups in LinkedIn as well as the React groups online. Take a look at who's asking questions and stuff, search them out and stalk them on LinkedIn. I mean, look for them on LinkedIn, start connecting with these people, put in, I would actually contribute anytime you can, because that gives you exposure to those people who work for those companies. And then just let them know, look, I'm this React developer. I've done all these are the projects I've done. I'm an intern and now I'm answering these questions, whatever. And do you know of anybody who's hiring, if they're doing any hiring? And if things come up. So that you have to keep your skills up, and part of it is getting engaged in all those React user groups and anything you can around that. If that's what you want to develop in, that's one of the ways.
Yeah, like this is like most of where my skills is
Cool.
right now. But also like open to learn anything that the company or if the job required any other skills, I'm still open to learn. Yeah.
I would focus on the React part just to get in, and then but just go after all those groups that are in LinkedIn and any groups outside, whether it's through Reddit or whoever, or Stack Overflow, it doesn't matter. It just start looking to see who's working for who, and then you can get a list of the companies that use it. You can start going after them, and you can work your way through the people you're helping as well.
Yeah.
And that goes for anybody doing any development work, is to get involved on those user groups, providing content. So.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Madir. Hope this was useful. So again, I think, Madir, just to, share some wisdom as well, communication skills is one of the key things that could get you a job. So many people, especially in tech and IT, they immerse themselves into, technical skills, certifications, and others. But again, I assure you, and again, I'll let Eleni maybe comment on this and then go to Coach Mo. How many people did you reject, Eleni, because of their communication skills, versus, they have a great technical skills?
It's so crazy. I'll use the example from Friday, and then I'll pass it over to Coach Mo. We had a presentation for an account executive. This man did every single thing correctly. He sent an email ahead of time as if he was like actually at our company. I was so hopeful on him. And then he gets into the presentation and he says to our panel, hi, everybody, if you don't mind, like we're not going to talk for the 45 minutes I'm presenting, and I'll save questions for the end. Number one, not realistic in what our ethos is and exactly what we were doing. It was a sales call. It was supposed to be back and forth. And for that simple fact, he lost momentum. He wasn't, and this is an English speaking first candidate. And I'll just say this, like he was an older white gentleman. Like this is not somebody that English is a second language. And even as somebody that speaks as English as their first language, his level of communication wasn't where we needed to be. We're not moving forward on him. Now I hire non-technical roles, so I'm more go-to-market and some of them are a bit more client facing. But for the technical roles that I've hired for, it still does come down to communication. It comes down to the confidence in how you can convey what you're saying. There are obviously hard skills where you can either do the job or not, but people are vetting, are you going to be a good cultural addition? Can you communicate clearly and effectively to your teammates? If you need to jump on a call with one of our CTOs or anything of that nature, are we going to feel, again, comfortable putting you in front of these people as representing our team and our company? I would always say if English is not your first language, do whatever you can, whether that's Rosetta Stone, ChatGPT, watching YouTube videos, conversing in English-only groups, meeting up with other immigrants or people that English isn't their first language, and start having conversations that are, number one, conversive like this, but also professional. You know what I mean? Like start trying to talk in the same lingo that you'd have to talk in if you were at work, but try using it day to day. Because I will say communication is a huge one. And on my side of the company, even if you have the technical aptitude, we're more willing to take a risk on people that are great communicators and not as strong on the hard skills versus amazing at the hard skills, because it's hard to teach communication. So yeah, I would say definitely if English isn't your first language, to try and find something that can really help you utilize constant communication on a day-to-day basis. Coach Mo, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Ali. So Ghadir, and now that you're in the market and looking for jobs, and you're a fresh graduate, so people inherently would understand that you don't have that much of experience. But I love the part where you said why you switched from physics to software. Okay, and I advise everyone to, before you go into network, to have something called the personal pitch, right? What am I up to? What do I stand for? When people come to jobs with 10, 15 years of experience, others look into their experience, they kind of guess what they're up to. They've been doing it for like 10, 15 years, but we get out of school, right? We're exploring that market and we're trying to, step into places where we feel that that's what I want to give my future to. And you said you want to do software. And I love the passion of the switch. The only thing that, speaking about the personal pitch, is missing in what you said is, what do you stand for? What difference do you want to make in software? What did you switch? I get that you switch because you're passionate and that's personal, but I know that there's something at the back of your head you want to do with software development. You want to help the companies, you want to help people in a particular way using that software. That needs to come out also in the communication. Whenever you're going to post on LinkedIn, tell people what you're up to so that others can listen. It's like, that's a person I want to invest in, right? And when you have that versus all the fresh graduates, you stand up, or stand out among the crowd. It's like, wow, everyone is saying I need a job because I graduated, but she says I need a job to make that difference. Let's start by her, maybe give her a chance and speak, and let's see what that conversation is going to take to. Once you have that conversation, it's up to you now to hold that thread that you got and run by it and keep hammering on the difference you want to make. At this point, you don't have experience, but keep hammering on the difference you want to make until somebody is inspired by you, and then they will say, we can try her out.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thanks for the advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach Mo. Okay, I think we had a question in the chat about ageism when looking for a new role. I'll let maybe Eleni, take this one first, and then we can add some insights.
Yeah, definitely. I won't speak to like full companies, but I definitely have worked with hiring managers in the past that were clear ageist. And funny enough, a lot of these people were more senior in their own careers, but there's an idea and a mindset behind like getting young and fresh talent. And again, as much as I can agree with that, there are so many instances where like years of experience will never be able to replace, or sorry, like talent will never be able to replace years of experience. And the best people that I've worked for, I had a guy who was 63 years old that reported into me a few years ago. To this day, one of my best coworkers and one of my most fond memories. The one thing I will say on resumes, and this is because I know how recruiters think, a lot of times people want to say over 25 years of experience or over 30 years of experience on their resume. It really does matter in the wording. If you see like 25 years or 2 decades, or it's just, I would say extensive. Like, let your resume speak for itself. There are going to be recruiters that are going to look at that. And some of them, and I don't want to use this to sound rude, but some of them aren't going to be smart enough to think this person's interested in the job. They applied for it. They've seen the salary range and they're going to be okay. Some recruiters are going to think, well, with 25 years, our salary range is 115,000. This person's going to be too much money and we're going to have to negotiate back and forth. Let the resume speak for itself. List your accomplishments. I shared my resume with Ahmed, so feel free to share it with the group. I have like 2-time go-to-market founding recruiter. Again, I have about 10 years of experience and I'm at a place in my career where, 10 is one thing, but I've seen 35 years of experience on some resumes, and then I've seen 6 months on other ones. Let the actual resume speak for itself. Don't feel like you have to put yourself in that category and age yourself, whether it's younger or whether it's more senior. It is a very real thing, and I've seen it happen. So I would just say, again, try and find a company, obviously, that has good culture and good people, but you'll never know that as an applicant. But I would say, as far as if you have over 15 years of experience, if you're hiring or applying for like a VP level role or a more senior role that requires on the job description 15 to 20 years or however it may be, but if there is not like an actual year that is spoken about on the job description, again, it could play against you, it could play for you, but I say just let the resume kind of speak for itself.
Great wisdom. Neil, I think your hand raised.
I think Mo did his hands first.
Mo, is this from before?
No, from the last one. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Eleni is right on the money. I'm older. I'm retired, so I'm older than probably everybody here. And I did experience in my last company the ageism and stuff to the point that it was almost comical listening to what some people would actually say to you. And while you can't say this stuff about any other gender, color, or anything like that, it seemed to be open season to say whatever you want about somebody who's over the age of 45 or 50. And honestly, ageism is not about over 60. It starts way younger than you think. In particular, I would suggest sometimes it starts with women a little earlier for some peculiar reason. And they have a lot of other struggles, similar struggles. But they look at the ageism, it's at my age, it's, are you going to stay in the job more than a year or two, or are you going to age out? Just like when they look at a woman who's married and hasn't had kids yet, well, are you going to have kids in the next little while? So it's all, everybody has these things you have to overcome. I would suggest on the age, I totally agree with Eleni, be careful, just put extensive experience. They want people with tenure. There's this, I heard a president say in one of the companies I was with that said openly in front of everyone, we value youth over tenure. And my senior account exec who dealt with like the top levels of the federal government looked at me and we were both going, there is no way CTOs and CIOs are going to put everything into somebody who's 21 years old in their advice. Young people bring incredible amounts of enthusiasm. They like sponges. They work like crazy. They're a ton of fun to have around. And by the way, they keep us older ones youthful. I always found that really great. They keep you enthusiastic. They are a fantastic resource to have around. But you need some of the older ones around too, because those are the customers, the people you're dealing with. And so, yeah, one of the problems some of the older ones get into is they start talking about when they're retiring. Well, the minute they open their mouths about stuff like that, they're just doomed themselves. So if you're enthusiastic, you bring a passion to what you want to do, you show you're really keen. These are the things that can overcome some of that. And sometimes you just can't. But anyways, I'm just kind of going on and on. But it is a thing that I had to go through, and I was quite amused to see it. But Eleni is 100% correct.
Well, on that topic, Neil, because Ahmed has a startup, I have a startup, and all this stuff. So at least on my side with the startup, sorry for the fresh graduates, nothing against you, but I would not hire a fresh graduate that instead of them helping me fly my business, I have to teach them what to do at the job. So we end up hiring senior people. If the budget is a concern, as Eleni say, I end up hiring senior people part-time after their job, right after their 9 to 5. If they can pitch 2-3 hours and they can pay for the 2-3 hours, work with them some sort of a partnership, a share or something like that, because the focus there is to make the business fly. Once the business flies to a particular point where it's revenue generating, then we're going to go hire, in my opinion, go hire the fresh graduates. Right.
Great. And then you have any follow-up here before we jump?
We were just hiring sales engineers at my company, and it's funny, my hiring managers will tell me what they want, and I don't want to say this to sound condescending, but I've worked at more startups and I know what the org needs, and like I know what we want more than they think they know what they want, but they don't know what they want. And for the sales engineering role, we only had our director of sales engineering. We were looking to hire 2. We had gone out to market for a bit. I met with a ton of amazing senior individuals, and some people did have 35 years of experience. We ended up then making a pivot, and then my CEO and the hiring manager said, no, we're going to do fresh grads. I'm like, there's no way we can do fresh grads, because what you need in pre-sales and what you need to know as far as integration, legacy systems, we work in fintech, even just the customer facing experience. So I was saying, yeah, I'm interviewing fresh grads. I interviewed 3 of them. I'm like, there's no way that these people would come in and they would last 3 months. They would be so overwhelmed, and like ethically too, I want to set people up to succeed. So I started finding about 3 years of actual work experience, which is still junior, at our company. And we ended up extending 2 offers. One guy's actually in Toronto. The other is out of San Jose. And yeah, it is, you also need to, again, know the recruiters that you're working with and what we're looking for as a full company standpoint. Again, to go back to the point of wanting that fresh talent, I've worked with phenomenal people, and I'm not, I don't want to say weird to discuss my age, but I'm 30. So I'm kind of right in that realm of, again, hiring people from 20 to 30 and then hiring people from 30 to probably 70. And yeah, it definitely is a very different energy when I'm engaged with people that have done it before. When I'm on a call and somebody's walking me through a partnership program that they've rolled out, or they've been a founding account executive, like that experience matters. But I will say a lot of companies are okay to hire early grads because of the grit that they have, because maybe they have a team already established of 2 to 3 people and they can bring somebody more junior in. My company, probably I'd say second end of this year, once we have our leadership roles established, and once we have that middle kind of management, we're going to be open to probably, I'd say, earlier grads. But outside of that, I pinged my CEO on Thursday. I'm hiring account managers and strategic partner managers right now. And I said to him, I said, the money that you've given me is not going to go far enough. We need to open this up. And I want to bring in people that have 20, 30 years, because I've met with phenomenal candidates. And he said, go ahead, like we'll discuss money after and we'll figure it out. It needs to be about the person. So don't also be scared if you see a job posting and it might be a bit more junior than you are, because companies will up level for the right candidate. And then the flip side of that, if a job's too senior, still apply to it. You know what I mean? Like, again, managers think they know what they want, but until they meet that person that really sells them on the value that they can bring, I wouldn't say anything's off the table. Maybe, again, like a VP level might be a little, we'll say out of reach, but yeah, don't be scared to kind of apply up and down. Andrew, question?
Yeah, Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So, firstly, to introduce myself, I am a software engineer skilled in Java, Spring, and Angular with 3 years of experience. But since I'm new to Canada and currently job searching in Ottawa, I wanted to ask, what are the key things a company looks specific for a candidate here?
Honestly, I'd say definitely dependent on the role. I would say communication skills, as Ahmed touched on, number 1. Are you from France?
Actually, I'm from Mauritius.
Oh, Mauritius. Okay, amazing. So again, you're in Ottawa. I would say tons of French ability there if you're from France. But I would say we're looking for people that want to work hard. I think after COVID and so many companies inflating hiring and hiring so many people, realizing that a lot of them probably did overstaff, they want people that can come in and kind of hit the ground running. If you're not familiar with the space, then I would say familiarize yourself with the space as best you can, whether that's through volunteering or through internship. But what I'm looking for in every candidate, do you understand the challenges of the job? Number 1, we're a 100-person startup company. I interview very differently than somebody at Microsoft or Indeed or Amazon. I'm looking for people that are okay with ambiguity, understanding it might not be a 9 to 5. Like, are you okay being flexible? Are you looking for a culture where you can really not build your own calendar, but you're okay with not being told like what to do? You have to go ask like what needs to be done. It's a different mindset of, again, people that are there 9 to 5 for the paycheck, and people that are saying, you know what, I want to come and make a difference, and how can I be of help, essentially. Outside of that, I would say somebody that plans to stay at the company. When recruiters say, what does the next 2 to 3 years of your life look like? A lot of people use the cliche of, I'm looking for somewhere to stay the next 5 years and again, grow my career. That is the right answer. Companies like, I think it was Neil that had mentioned that some people have said, oh, I'm looking to retire soon, or, oh, I just want this because I'm going to move. Less is more. All they want to know is that you're committed, and do research on the company. If you get an interview today, that is like gold. if I had, like, I've had candidates come in and say, can you tell me about the company? Automatically, it's not like, if you haven't done research and have specific questions that you're coming, I'm not here to sell you on the job. You applied, like, this is, I'm going to give you information, but I have candidates that are like, oh, like, how many people is the company? Where are you based out at? Like, all of that is accessible online. And if you were intentional about, again, wanting to work for us, that's all stuff that should have been done. So I would say also try and utilize the 30 minutes or an hour with the recruiter as the best you can. Come prepared with questions. Give them an accolade or an accomplishment that you've seen the company succeed in the last little bit. Like if it's a bigger company, like, oh, I saw you rolled out this new product. Like show that you've taken the time to like intentionally study the background of the company. And then whoever you're interviewing with, obviously a lot of the times you'll know the name. Look for like their background. Go on their LinkedIn. Oh, I saw Ahmed, you worked at PwC. I know somebody from this, that, or the other. Like just show that you're prepared. And that is what I can say is the best kind of first impression versus kind of going in there and having a million questions of things that you could have used resources to kind of find online.
Okay, thanks, great. I have one more question, if may I?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
okay. Okay, I just wanted to know how important is Canadian work experience when applying for a job, right?
I will say it depends what country you come from and it depends what country you've worked for. If I am interviewing somebody and all of their experience is out of India, if they're from American companies, like PwC is a branch there, Deloitte, they're reputable, it's more of a chance that they will probably have they'll probably have an opportunity to maybe get an interview. I will say if you've worked for a company out of London, much more familiar with like London and Canadian culture and American culture as far as work experience. Europe is a little bit more looked into. I know Africa has been hard just because it's hard to kind of establish the validity of the companies that you've worked at. And were you a director because it was 2 people or 10 people? Or I would say Canadian experience probably matters 30%. But I would say the candidate is what, again, is going to drive it home. So as long as you can do the job that they're asking you to do, I would say don't set yourself back, but also recognize that you do have a leg behind the candidates that have Canadian experience naturally. It's not you're not going to get a job whatsoever, or you're not going to get chosen. But again, the thought behind is if there's people with the experience that we're looking for that are more closely aligned, they're going to take a chance just because of the ramp time and how long it's going to take for this person to potentially be able to start adding value. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like be all or end all, but it does make the job market a lot more competitive, I will say.
Great. Thank you.
No worries.
Awesome.
Andrew, you speak. Sorry, Ahmed. You speak French in Mauritius, right?
Right. We're
As well,
bilingual.
right? So you're considered bilingual, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I would
Okay, good.
Montreal too. Like you're so close to Montreal. If you're open to doing remote, why not just utilize again the skill that you have? And if you, again, I don't know if you want to again learn or improve your English, but if it's about a job, like I would definitely say language over like history is probably what I would say more. So if you're interested, yeah, look into a few jobs in Montreal because the bilingualism is again, like Coach Mo said, a huge tidbit.
Sure.
Yeah, Coach Mo, you have any thoughts? Do you want to share, or should I?
No. Start first because you were about to say something. I cut you off, and then I'll go back and comment on Andrews. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So the first thing again, I want to just say something because I always admired Eleni's vibes and energy in what she says. This energy that you hear from her is what you need to show in the interview so that you show up as a real passionate candidate, passionate someone who's really caring about the job. That kind of vibes really makes a lot of difference. So again, if you see how she's energetic, how her voice is really a little bit higher than normal because again she's passionate, and that shows how she's passionate about what she's doing. And if you cannot show this in the interview, then unfortunately again you will show as if you're not really interested. Again, I always keep saying that job search is just like marriage. It's a relationship. You spend more time with your colleague than you spend with home or family. So again, if they don't like you as a person, unfortunately, it's not gonna work. So definitely, again, I really admire that vibe and energy that I always get from Eleni, and she's been always happy to help this community. So thank you so much, Eleni. Again, for the Canadian experience part, I've been there. Andrew, Coach Mo have been there. So many others have been there. I personally feel like the Canadian experience thing is something that an excuse for people who are lazy and don't want to say that they failed to keep doing things, unfortunately. So it's all about communication. Like when I came to Canada, I didn't have any Canadian experience, and for me Canadian experience is all about how you show up, how you understand people, how you listen, how you communicate, how do you react to community like this one, staying outside of the camera, maybe like not showing up, or being shy, asking questions in a very low tone voice. Those kind of things can look like you're not really able to mingle with the Canadian culture, and show up as a real candidate in the society, and help others. How did I manage this? I was very shy. I was not really a speaking person like I'm now, but I used to volunteer a lot. I went out. When I came to Canada, I volunteered with an organization called Live, Work, and Play, and they were going out every week with some vulnerable people just to help them with whatever, making them having fun, passionate. And then I started to communicate, started to take myself outside of my comfort zone in order to see how can I use some words. Again, English is not my first language, and that's okay. Some people here are like me, English is not their first language, and they start to share what comes out, and then they try to practice, and then learn, should I say this or say that, and then accordingly you can adjust. Sorry if I took longer. Coach Mo, go ahead.
Okay. So Andrew, let's dive a bit deeper. So how long have you been in Canada?
It's been 1 month. Yeah, for 1 month.
1 month. Okay. So in a sense, 1 month you're lucky. 1 month being on this call, that's amazing. You got yourself in the right space. You're trying to network and all this stuff. So I can say from that you're energetic, and that's in that space. Now your resume and LinkedIn, right? If I don't know if you've shared already or not, or I missed it. There's a lot of things on the chat, but the adjustment of the resumes and LinkedIn to match and map into the expectations of employers and recruiters in Canada. So have you done this exercise or had help do this exercise?
Yes, actually, I did some research. I think in Canada, there's so much applications in one day at the company.
Yeah.
So you use technologies like ATS to feed more CVs that come to the company. So I try to adjust my CV to it.
Mm-hmm.
And for my LinkedIn, actually, I'm trying to have more connections to maybe to have to improve my networks. That's what I'm trying to do, but more.
Okay, good. Let me give you an example of something so that you know where your space at now. And I always give that example to people. Is like, let's say you are in Mauritius and you are hiring for a project manager, right? And then you have 9 candidates from Mauritius and 1 project manager from, let's say, Egypt. That's my home country, right? So tendency wise, right, if all candidates are equal, which one would you go for? Somebody from Mauritius, or you take a risk and go get somebody who's applying from Egypt? We're saying they're all constant, all profiles are the same.
Maybe it depends on the company. If the company is trying to reach for someone hybrid or remote or maybe on-site, or
but if you would reduce risk, what would you do? If you want to reduce risk, right, as an employer, you just don't want to get into any surprises, right? You probably take somebody from Mauritius where you're familiar with, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the natural. I just want to tell you that this is the natural human tendency. Now, so if I want to beat this, what would I do? Why are people picking somebody there? Because the familiar box, and I don't want, I want to play low risk and all these things, right? So how that does apply for you? Okay. Networking is going to be very important because you want to get out there. You don't want employers to compare paper for paper, like resume here, resume there. If the paper is put next to the paper, you might lose, because if I'm an employer wanting to hire somebody who's like, I want to reduce my risk, I'll go hire somebody who's been in Canada, and I know, I look at the resume, I'm familiar with the companies, as Eleni was saying, and all this stuff. So if I look at the company name, or I don't know what people are doing at Mauritius exactly. By the way, this was done, I was subject to this. When I got hired, the project manager I interviewed was thinking that I was doing documentation in Arabic, although I was working for an Oracle partner. So we were doing it in English, not in Arabic. But that's his world, is this way. So I cannot go alter their world. But what is going to be important for you in having adjusted first your resume and LinkedIn to the Canadian expectations is to go out there and network and get people to know who you are, to the point where somebody say, Andrew is a nice guy. What are you doing, Andrew? Right? So I just came from Mauritius. I'm looking for a job. We have an opening. Do you want to apply for us? Why? Because now it's not about the resume and details anymore. It's about liking. Human beings are not rational, by the way, right? They're very emotional, right? So even if they make rules for hiring, if they like somebody, they meet somebody they like, they will alter the rule. You'll be surprised, right? And that's one of the first few lessons we learned in my MBA marketing class. The consumer is not rational. They buy by emotion, and people will hire by emotion. Forget about these people that will tell you, oh, we're professional and we don't do blah, 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 and all this stuff. Yes, that's for looking good and general consumption. But at the end of the day, human beings are human beings, right? So get out there. My advice is network. Find the difference you want to make. Again, as I was talking to Gadir, you're new here, find the difference you want to make, enroll people in your conversation in the difference you want to make until somebody is inspired by who you are, right? But somebody will think that you're nice, you're loyal, you seem like you have good ethics, and they will say, you know what, I'll give him a chance. And by the way, they're not going to give you a chance for free. They're likely going to underpay you in your first salary. So make it a win-win. Okay, underpay me in the first salary 10,000 a year or something, but after 2 years I'm going to get them 40 when I have the Canadian experience, right? So that's my advice there.
Okay, thanks so much. So insightful.
Okay, so guys, I know that we're almost on time, so
No,
I want to
sorry, Ahmed, I wrote in the group that we can go till 11:15. I know we have a ton of questions. If you can go till 11:15, I don't know. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. We'll go to 11:15 or even further if needed. I'll just again maybe.
Eleni, are you in Toronto?
I am. Yes.
Yeah, you didn't turn your clock ahead.
What time is it?
It's 12 o'clock.
This is where my mind goes. I don't know how every single year. And my dad messaged me, did you do, sorry, 12:15.
You're good? You're still good?
Good.
All good. Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
so
let's in the chat. Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, if you don't mind, let's take the group selfie first, and then take those questions immediately after that. So guys, if you want to join the camera, be a celebrity for this call. Again, we do this to promote the call on LinkedIn and social media. So and it's a good chance for you to be there. Maya, by the way, we're not seeing you if you want to be in camera, but if you just want to have the background, then that's fine. Okay, so I'll say 1, 2, 3, and I'll just say smile, and I'll take the selfie. So 1, 2, 3, and smile. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody who joined. Please stay in. Eleni, go ahead, please, and let's jump into the questions in the chat.
Perfect. Okay, so one of
them.
Thank
you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Could you please share insights on how Canadians can work in the USA? I'd like to emphasize that I'm eligible for the NT visa and do not require sponsorship visa. Additionally, is the US job market currently open to Canadians? Great question. I work for a US company, and I've worked for US companies the last 4 years. I don't want to say there's not a chance, because I hire Canadians all the time, only with the exact experience that we're looking for, or better than we could find in the US. It is cheaper for US companies to hire Canadians, but if you are a Canadian and they have a Canadian company, but it's a US company, like we'll say the headquarters in the US, they have a Canadian company, they're going to pay you in Canadian, and you're just going to be an employee of an American company that has, again, a Canadian subsidiary. But for my instance, again, I don't want to say it's a niche skill set, but I've been in fintech now the last almost 6.5 years. So it made sense for them to pay a little bit more to bring me on. But I would say it's not off the table. To relocate, to be sponsored to move to the States, another game. I would not count on that. Again, I would love to move to the States. And the company that I work for right now would sponsor me. Mind you, they're out of San Jose. So I'm like, do I want to move somewhere with one of the highest costs of living? But if you're trying to get American companies to sponsor a visa, I would say there's about a 10% chance that would happen, only because think about how many people there are in the US and how many there are in Canada, and all of the people that don't have jobs there. To Coach Mo's point, why are we going to hire a Canadian when we can hire an American? You know what I mean? So you really have to know you're either the best at what you do, you know somebody at the company and they're willing to take that chance, or this is a company that is completely open to kind of bringing Canadians over, depending on, again, if it's a hybrid role, if it's fully remote, or if it's 5 days a week in office. But to be sponsored to move to the US from a US company, unless you are, again, a very niche or like phenomenal at what you do and they need this job and they need you there, I would not count on that at this point. Even for my company, we're not sponsoring any visas right now, and we have the money to do it. It's a process to go through, especially depending. And I know that you had said that you don't need one, but just for the other people on the call, if they do, it's a completely different ball game if you're doing a TN visa, which is what somebody like I would need. I'm a Canadian citizen. If I want to move to the States, it's a TN. It's about $3,000 to the company and can be done in, I'd say, about 6 months. HB1 visas, again, completely other kind of ball game. So if you're confident in your abilities and you're kind of willing to put yourself out there as like a subject matter expert in what you do, I would say that that's great. But I also say apply to every American job you can, because the goal is to live in Canada. Sorry to my Americans, but live in Canada, get paid in American, because the exchange rate and the extra money that you can make is huge. But it shouldn't always, again, be because of the money. But if you do have that opportunity, then definitely I would say take it. But be realistic as well, just like we were talking about Canadian experience, that the US is very, very competitive as far as the candidate pools go. So Coach Mo, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Eleni, because I am the one working for an American company in Canada as well, and I've done that in the last 20 years that I've been in Canada. Probably worked a total of 10 years with American companies and processed like 3 or 4 times TN visa. So the key here is good. Like what Eleni is talking about here is for the full time, and I would like you to consider, if you want to make it easier for yourself, consider contracts. Right? Why contracts? Because the recruiting companies that are out there hiring for their clients have these processes set up. Some majority of them worked with Canadian, and when you tell them TN visa, they know exactly what it is, right? And with the recruiters, those who are not familiar with the TN, when you work as a contract, all you need from them is the contract. And there is a 2-pager template that I can share with anybody, right? Where the company that is hiring you, which is that middle company, the recruiter, because you're working for them, will fill it. The border agent need to know that this company is reputable, meaning that if that is a good recruiter, like companies like in the US, like for example Tech Systems, which has an arm here, and they're in the US, when they show in that letter that they're making revenue like $10 million, $15 million, the officer there understands that this is not a company you made up to get into the US, right? And then you can go work on TN. Now, because it's an hourly pay as well, whoever is going to accept, let's say $75 in the US as an American, if you say I will accept 70 or 65 with the exchange rate local, you will surpass their 75 in Canadian, right? So if somebody is really interested in knowing the in and outs of the contracting in the US as a step to put your foot into the US, you're welcome to connect with me as well on LinkedIn. We can have a chat around that.
Yeah.
Or if the numbers are good, Ahmed, we can do a separate session
Yeah,
for this.
maybe you can dedicate one session next week or the other weeks to discuss this.
Because that exchange rate between Canadian, I stopped looking for jobs in the Canadian market. I'm so senior
Yeah.
that the rates are offered over there does not meet my financial obligations at this stage of my life. So
Yeah, I'll say when I started working for US companies, and this is going to sound insane, I doubled my salary to the dollar. Like not 20%, like 100% increased my salary. So there is, again, massive value in looking at American companies. Another thing I will say on the contracting side, even if you don't want to move there, like to get a TN visa, but you just want to be a contractor, that's another great thing, as Coach Mo said. Because companies are, again, willing to take more risk on contractors as well right now. The one thing I will say, if people do plan on moving to the States and you live in Canada, remember that your money right now is Canadian. So everything that you have in your bank account right now, if it's like 100 grand, you're going to go there and it's going to be 60 grand or whatever the exchange rate is at the time. So you want to make sure that if you are going to take that next step and want to kind of move to the States as far as permanent goes, to definitely be able to know that, God forbid, if you get laid off, and if you're a contractor too, there's no job security because they can cancel it the day of, the day, like afternoon, it doesn't matter. So making sure financially that you're in a great space, I think is super important. Now, this is something that I probably shouldn't recommend as a recruiter, but I do anyway because I do it. When you apply to a job, put that you live in America. If it's an American job and it says where do you live and it gives you like an option, and you want to overpass that ATS, I put New York. I'm located in Toronto, but I do know that some ATS, and for those that don't know what ATS is, it's applicant tracking system. So when you go to apply to a job, you can go and they'll have a drop down. Where do you live? Do you need sponsorship to get into the US? It sounds terrible. I say no, I don't need sponsorship and that I live in the US. I've worked for American companies for 6 years, but sometimes you just need to get on that call and get that interview, and the ATS will remove you. Let's say if they're only considering candidates in the States, they will remove you. If they're only considering candidates in the US and Canada and you apply from Europe or the Middle East, it will automatically remove you. So it's not you getting rejected because your skills aren't good enough. You're getting rejected because of where you're located. So I don't say do that all the time, but I do say if it's a job that you know you could go in and do phenomenally and you're passionate about it, then lie and just put that you live in the States, because the ATS will impact it. And then if there is a little box, which most applications have, write the hiring manager a letter or a note, which I always do. I have it copied and pasted on a sticky note, so I send the same one. Over the last 6 years, I've worked remotely from Canada supporting US early stage startups, open to relocation, would be happy to live, blah, 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 blah. But I let them know. I don't want to think that like just go in and we hop on and it's like, oh, actually, where do you live? I always let them know that I've done that. And I even put in the note, I know ATS does select candidates based on geography. I'm hoping my location doesn't count me out. So you're not lying because you're being honest, but technically in the background, sometimes you'll be able to get around those specific kind of technical barriers, I'll say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eleni. Maya, I know you've been waiting diligently, so please go ahead. Name, location, and your question, please.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. All of the information has been great. Happy Sunday. Yes, we did spring forward to my surprise as well. I'll make it really quick.
Maya, by the way, we cannot see you. If you're intending to open your camera, just letting you, we're not seeing you. But anyway,
I know.
Okay.
I apologize today.
Oh, it's
Normally
okay.
I have my camera on, but I have
good on the
low
camera.
bandwidth right now.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead. Sorry.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
Bad hair day.
Go ahead, Maya.
There you go.
Yeah, I have bad hair days all the time.
My first question is, I did have a recruiter reach out. We did a Zoom. We had a conversation about a contract role, but I felt that the recruiter was a little tone deaf, given the climate, and because the question was, why have you been unemployed for 9 months? And so my professional response is that given the current increase in layoffs in the tech industry, many experienced professionals like myself, are now looking for their next opportunity. But let me tell you a little bit about my background. So that was my response. I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I should include? I just kind of felt that that was a little tone deaf of a question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was it one of the first questions she asked, or like what was how far
Oh,
into
it
the
was later. It was later in the after the review, and it was more like, well, I just want to make sure because the client is going to know that feel like you haven't been working in this space for. I said, oh, and I had to take a pause,
Yeah.
because I'm okay. You don't lose your skills in 9 months, and and in this interim, I have taken a volunteer role. I do Girls Who Code, so I volunteer for them, teaching them how to code. And then also I'm going for my master's in AI. So I just thought it was just again a tone deaf question. And again, I run into just kind of going back to the ageism, but a little bit on the reverse side because I have experience. Sometimes you're talking to recruiters who are not as experienced, and so you find yourself trying to make that balance where you're not too over the head, where you see, you know what I'm saying? It's a weird balance.
Yeah, no, honestly, very valid question. I'll talk about a situation that I went through last week, but the first thing I would say is address it and bring it up before they do. It's always the best way to kind of get ahead of it. The way that I ask the question, because my CEO does not accept any tenures under 18 months for certain roles. So I could have the best person and they could have been laid off for something completely out of their hands. My CEO, his view right now is if they've had longer tenures, they've been successful, and I'm working on changing that mindset. But when I ask the question, I say, walk me through your experience and can you let me know how you've transitioned from role to role? So I want to know if I'm meeting with somebody and they, in the last 10 years, have had 5 jobs, that's 2 years roughly. I want to know how they got the job. Did you get laid off? Did you quit the job? Did you have an old coworker from a last company say that there's an amazing opportunity? So I would use, I don't know if this was at the point where you had already walked her through your experience. If this hasn't, then I would say I'd love to be able to kind of walk you through my experience, and then happy to dig in after. Another thing, I think that your response was very mature and very professional. The one thing that I would say, don't say that you volunteer. People think that, and this is me being very black and white. You don't have better things to do. And if that's the case, you could change I volunteer from Girls to Coding to I'm an advisor for Girls of Coding. It's everything of the way that you communicate the value that you're bringing to whatever you're doing right now. So yeah, I would say over the last 9 months, as again, the layoffs have just been so astronomical in the US. I wanted to find a way that I could still give back to the community. So I've joined Women for Coding, Girls for Coding as an advisor. I meet with them multiple times a week, wanting to make sure that obviously I keep my skills sharp. Outside of that, I really started intentionally applying within the last 4 months. I took a little bit of time off after my layoff or after I left my last job. Buy a little bit of time in the sense of you haven't been looking for a job for 9 months. I got laid off. I took 2-3 months, spent time with family, friends, whatever the case is. 4 months ago, I started intentionally applying. And I really want to make sure that every job or interview that I have is a company that I believe in based on what you posted on your website. Your mission really is in alignment, but recognizing again that the client might have a few questions about why I haven't worked. Happy to kind of dig into that. But the actuality is I didn't want to start a job that in 3 months I was going to leave because I rushed my job search. I want to be intentional and ensure that where I end up is somewhere that I plan to stay. So flip it on them. And that's crazy that that's how they kind of approached it of why have you not been working in 9 months? But I would just say, don't beef up what you're doing. You still are advising. A volunteer is an advisor. It's going back to Ahmed's first point. It's all in how you communicate it. And another thing too, Mia, try and be as concise as you can. Don't give them like your whole story. You don't need to get into details. The less you say with the more impact, the better it's going to be that the recruiter is going to say, oh, she's not worried about the 9 months. I shouldn't be worried about the 9 months. You know what I mean? It just goes to show like level of, I guess, like belief in yourself. So I would say just try and work on the wording. But again, I think that was such a one-off question. And do you mind me asking, is this a larger organization or is it like a smaller recruiting firm?
It was a recruiting firm for a larger organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to remind, yeah, they're not a small, I wouldn't call that a small recruiting firm, but
we're a little bit rougher around the edges. I would say the larger the recruiting firms go, because it's again, it's a numbers game. You know what I mean?
yes.
But yeah, that's what I would say is just rework the words to better describe the value you're bringing that doesn't make it sound not as impactful as it is, because it is. And again, the masters in AI, that's massive. You know what I mean? I would start with that. Like, that's the first place I'd say after my layoff, or I don't know the situation, but I took 2-3 months off, spent some downtime. Then I started my master's of AI. Even if you haven't started it, just say that you have.
Yes.
Just shows that, again, you filled these are, and again, I don't want this to come across as me saying to lie, because it's not, but I know how recruiters think, and I know how hard it is to get a job. There is just unconscious bias that sit with all of us. And in today's day and age, there are just levers that you have to use that, again, are going to not make you look better, but enhance what you're currently doing. So I hope that I was able to answer that one for you.
Oh, thank you. That makes sense about the advisor, that totally, and also taking time off. I definitely will use that that wording. Thank you for that information. My second question, real quick, what is your advice? I always turn off when they say, would you like AI to review for your resume? I turn that off because I just don't feel right now that is working, because it just doesn't, you get kicked out. I tested that, but I just want to get your thoughts on when you're submitting your resume to an organization and that option is there. What are your thoughts on that?
I personally, did you send me your resume, by the way, last week?
Yes, I did. Yes,
okay,
I did.
And I sent it back. I cleaned it up. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I would, again, avoid the AI button. It doesn't, I've never used it personally when I've applied to jobs. Maybe I should, I don't know. But I just want to know that everything that's on my resume is what I've written myself. I use ChatGPT to clean mine up as well. But when you start using like too much of the AI tools, it makes you sound like Shakespeare. And like, it's just, the companies know that it's not you, it's ChatGPT or some sort of AI tool. So if you have a strong resume, which the resume I reviewed looks like it's strong enough, use that for a bit. If you're not seeing any traction, maybe in 6 to 8 weeks, try something else. But I wouldn't solely depend on those, because again, some of the things, my mom uses it and I'm like, Mom, the point of ChatGPT is to refine what you write. Like, you can't just use everything. It sounds like the president wrote it. But yeah, I would, again, avoid them for now. Use the new resume that I gave you, and then see kind of the traction you get, and then go from there.
Thank you.
No worries.
Cool. Eleni, I'm not sure if you can stay longer, but
Yeah, I'm good. I have nothing. I'm good to go. If anyone has to
Awesome.
drop though, any of anyone on here, feel free. But I'm happy.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you, and I know that Coach Mo have a follow-up, but let me just again say a few words and then hand it over to you, Coach Mo. So guys, again, Eleni is a great recruiter. Not all recruiters are like Eleni. She has definitely a growth mindset and definitely great wisdom. Again, like candidates could be not a great candidate. Some recruiters are not really great recruiters. That's the reality of life. So you could end up with someone who's not really experienced, someone who have some insecurities or some kind of issues in their recruiting style. And again, no offense about that. That's life. Not all humans are good. Not all humans are bad. But again, I don't want you to feel discouraged if you met someone like that, or who could maybe be frustrating for you. But again, this is something just again to keep in mind. When you're speaking to humans, we're speaking to someone. Don't feel bad about if they have a rough day or a bad day. They might come strong on you, or maybe not show up in a good way. Don't take this personal. This is what I'm trying to say here. So again, Coach Mo, I'm not sure if you have a follow-up, or read your question.
No, just a quick thing. I mean, like, you want to consider how the interview goes as well, because I don't know if Eleni would agree. Sometimes if the interview from the beginning till that point is not going well, recruiters will fish or drop certain sentences to indicate or pave the way to reject later on, so that when you get rejected, you say, oh, because of my gap in the 9 months gap that I had. So, people want to feel also good about sending rejections later on. So if they didn't buy into that interview, towards the end, they will say stuff, or they will drop certain sentences, so that when you get the rejection later, you're cool. Like, you're not going to fight it or argue it.
No, a gazillion percent. And it's sad. I do it. I will do that when candidates will say, I won't naturally prompt it, but in my industry, I would say 90% of the interviews that I have, candidates at the end of the call say, how do you think I did? Or compared to the other candidates. And I'm not going to say that you did well if you didn't do well. I'm not going to say you did bad, but I'm also going to say, right now, I've met with about 7 to 8 candidates. In full transparency, we do have a few candidates that come from our direct competitors, or other candidates that have whatever this candidate isn't having. It's an early letdown to let them know, when I do come and let you know that you haven't been chosen, it's probably for that reason. Now, the one thing I will say is, I make my money either way. I'm internal. This is for the betterment of the company. In your case, Mia, the recruiter that you were working for, they would be making money off of you. So I think agency recruiting is a little bit different, because I don't want to say they don't care about the end outcome, but they're trying to get money. So they would probably, even though that it might have been a way to let you down, or it also could be a way to ensure that if you do get the job, that they can go ahead and address that, versus somebody kind of hiring internally. But a story that I did want to share, just to empathize and to show everyone that I know what it's like to go through an interview process. While I was interviewing for this job, I was also interviewing for another job in New York City, 5 days a week on site. And it was one of the best startups that has probably come out in the last 2 years, I would say, in the AI space. So I applied to this job, didn't know that I knew anybody at the company, but I did. But I had just seen the company. I go online, I apply to the job, and I get an interview. So I meet with their head of people. We had a fantastic call. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. It ended up being an hour. And he's like, I had a great call. Let me just double check that we're good on the TN visa part, and we'll be good to go to move you to the next step. So the next week comes, and he's like, hey, Eleni, we're all good to go on the visa. Are you free on Wednesday to meet with our other go-to-market recruiter? No worries. Wednesday comes. Obviously, like anybody, and I'm a recruiter, and I'm only meeting another recruiter, and this is somebody at my level. It's not somebody higher or lower, but you want to be prepared. I have a list of 10 questions. I want to know about their run rate, their ARR, their product market fit. How do they price themselves? Like, I have such intentional questions. 15 minutes before the call, she cancels it and says something came up. Are you able to reschedule for Friday? Right away, in 10 minutes, I answer, hi, XYZ, no worries, happy to reschedule for Friday. Friday morning comes up, haven't heard from her. Send her another message, haven't heard from her. Monday comes along, I email the head of people again. Hi, Rob. That's not his name, but hi, Rob. I unfortunately have a chance to connect with the recruiter last week. Still excited about the opportunity. Let me know if there's any time this week. Yes, Eleni, no worries. I'll have her reach out to you. Wednesday comes along. Haven't heard from this woman. I've now emailed her 3 times and I'm going to be your coworker, and I haven't heard back from you. So finally, the Friday, I emailed both of them, the manager and the recruiter, and I said, my gut's telling me that the role's been filled, but I wanted to double check. I'm super eager for this opportunity. He comes back, hi, Eleni, so sorry. This was a huge slip on our end, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, we feel like we can find the talent in New York, because they would have to wait months for me to do the TN visa. I'd have to work remote at the beginning. But my thing is, like, just say that from the beginning. Now, there's a few scenarios that could have happened. They did find somebody. He wanted to let me down easy, and it was just his way of saying no, essentially. They're a shit company, number one, or number two, and they just have no respect for their candidates. And that was, in my mind, I said, as if I was going to uproot my life for a company that couldn't give me an email back. So going back to my initial excerpt of saying, like, work hard for these companies, but don't kill yourself and don't exhaust all of who you are to kind of pour into your job, because again, like Ahmed said, there are good recruiters, there are bad recruiters, there are great companies and not. And looking at this company from the outside, it was everything that I thought I wanted. As a candidate on that experience, I'm like, this is unbelievable. So I ended up reaching out to their chief of staff, because that's how I was connected to the company. And I just said, like, I hope you're happy here, but ethically, there is no way that I would ever work for a company that does not value not only candidate time, but this was the team I was going to be working for. So just to, again, give everyone an example of, it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant, if you're Canadian, American, what your background is. If you know people at the company, if you don't, there are just bad recruiting processes and bad interview processes. And unfortunately, it leaves a mark. Like, I'm not going to forget that. And I'm sure our kind of space, fintech, is very small, and AI fintech is even smaller. We're going to cross paths again. So I just sent a very polite message, but what I wanted to say was a lot different than what I did say. But just don't let it discourage you. It's not meant to be. At the end of the day, if you don't feel good in the interview process, like Coach Mo said, and you don't feel like there was the same level of positive reinforcement from the recruiter and showing eagerness, then again, don't kind of put all your eggs in one basket. So interview as many places as you can that you're qualified for. Don't close any door. And like Ahmed said at the beginning of the call, expect interview processes to go between 4 to 8 weeks, I would say, because timing is not in anyone's side on this. Hiring managers quit. The VP wants to see something different. They get a new recruiter. So also, if you're going to apply for a job, don't expect to start by the end of the month. Even if the company says, we're looking to hire yesterday, it's going to take a bit of time. So just mentally prepare that it's going to be spaced out a little bit.
Great wisdom, Eleni, as usual, and great story, and definitely lots of insights here. And what I want to say, maybe just commenting on your story, unfortunately, financial stress could lead some people to, be desperate on finding some jobs. And again, unfortunately, it's recession time. Everybody's chasing financial stability, and it's not easy. It definitely takes a toll on us and on how we showed up. But again, if you can really be, focus on what your values are, like what Eleni did is absolutely professional and really the right way to handle those situations. Some people cannot do those bold decisions or bold actions, unfortunately, and I've seen those myself, and definitely that affects your confidence. You need to show up as a confident person before you even become a technical person. If you're not really bold enough and confident enough to show that you have values, you have energy, you have wisdom, then it doesn't matter. Like, you could get the job and then get fired or laid off after a few months or a few weeks. So try again to be mindful about this. I know it's not easy. It's a very tough time. It's not easy to stay without job, without financial stability. But definitely be mindful of that way. And again, thank you so much, Eleni, for sharing that insightful story. I'll stop here.
I was going to say, I just want to wrap up with one more thought, just because I had people at my last company who are a direct competitor of the company I'm at now reach out to me, and we won't hire them because they're just not the level that we need. But one thing I will say, and going back to Ahmed's point on financials, understand what the market is paying for where you live and what you can do. One of the biggest things, and this is unfortunately what I've seen happen more in smaller stage companies, they will overpay their employees by a lot because they think that's what they need to do. And then when you get laid off, and I'm going to use a makeup number, you're making $100,000, but in reality, you should have been making 65,000, or you're making 200 and you were supposed to be making 130. But your mindset is, I don't want to take lower than what my last job was. And some people are flexible, 5,000, 10,000, 15, but when it gets into $20,000, $30,000, you're like, okay, well, no, I was making that. But like, I would say if you are in peril, take whatever you can get, whether it's 50,000, just to ensure that you're getting something as far as like monetary value. I would also say if anyone's unemployed and you're eligible for employment insurance, EI, I went on EI for 5.5 weeks last year. Like, this is money that you've paid into. Use that money. Don't be scared. It's not disability, it's benefits that you've paid into. So make sure if you do get laid off that you're not saying, oh my God, my money's going to cut off. My EI per month was $2,400. Like, again, obviously not enough for all of my overarching bills. I live downtown Toronto, but paid a good chunk of my rent. You know what I mean? There's a lot of you into doing research on when you get laid off, what are the safety nets that our country as Canada or the US does provide to help you make that transition. So just wanted to put that out there as well. I'm done.
Thank you, Eleni. Gadir, sorry for keeping you waiting. Go ahead if you still have a question.
Yes, like actually have follow-up question to Eleni when she said that if we are doing a volunteer role, it's like not to say that, like to say something else. So I'm doing now, as I said, the internship, it's unpaid. So is it like, should I mention it's unpaid, or you also like prefer, like
The less is
nothing?
more.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because actually, like, like it's unpaid internship, but actually like we do really the job like daily, we have meetings, but
You have
I'm
like
not
stand-ups
sure.
and everything of that. Yeah, no. I would not say it's unpaid.
Okay. And
But
also, yeah.
Ghadir, since you mentioned the topic, I have a golden rule in interviews: don't volunteer information you're not asked for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Like if they
Also,
ask, then you say, you know what? Don't say. Just
yeah.
keep it to yourself.
Yeah, because sometimes people, they say, like it's better in resume to say, to mention it's unpaid, but I feel I'm not really sure if
If it is unpaid,
Internship.
yeah. If you have unpaid right now, take it off.
Yeah.
Also, like very quick question about the resume. As a fresher, do you recommend to have a summary at the top, or no, like just that, like like sometimes for our resume we have summary and the technical skills, job experience and projects, etc. So some people, they advise not to put summary at the top and just to keep it education, technical skills, work experience, like as a fresher, since we don't have that experience to put it in our summary at the top.
Ahmed, how can I upload a document here? Can I put it in the chat?
You can upload it, put it in the chat if you want, or just
need
send it to me.
permission.
I can upload it on my Google Drive and send
If you
the link.
don't, can you post my resume?
Yeah, I can post your resume. Yeah, let me find it. I'll post it here.
I can
just
sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
I got it, and it's a question for Eleni too. So, intern is not a job. That's not the job you're doing. You're doing a specific role. So I'm just questioning whether you're supposed to even put down as your header, I'm an intern. No, if you're doing software development, you're a software developer. And then how would you put the intern part, or do you even need to put an intern part after that? Because whether you're getting paid or not is kind of irrelevant if you're doing the job. Would it
100%.
not be? So to a recruiter.
No, 100%. So what I would love to see is a recruiter, a software developer, and then dash internship. If it is like a first time, brand new to the role, how many hours, Ghadir? Is this like a 40-hour-a-week internship, or what does that look like?
No, actually, it's a part-time, 4 hours daily.
Okay,
4 hours.
so sorry, say that again. How many?
It's 4 hours per day.
Well, yeah. So for that, I would always write internship. If it's anything less than 20 hours a week, 20 hours or more, again, very realistically could be considered a full-time job to some people, depending on, again, what job it is. If it's 4 hours, then I would say software engineer or software developer. And then, so company, Ahmed's going to share my resume. So you'll see company, title, and then I would put dash internship aside, because I think it's one thing to have an internship, but then it's a stretch if it's, again, 4.5 hours. 40 hours is obviously a lot different. So just even having to get into a company and that change of how much is going to be asked of you. But again, definitely don't say unpaid. If it is an internship, that like a summer internship where it's 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week, and it's more of a real life job, but it's an internship, then you don't even have to say an internship. But if it is a true internship that you're just helping out here and there, then I would state that.
Yeah. I looked at Ghadir's LinkedIn as well. So to Neil's question, because she has more than one, it's very useful to put the word internship, because you'll see 2 months, 2 months. So if you don't put internship, people will think she got hired and let go in like 2 months, right? So it firebacks to her. So you have to explain why it's 2 months and you left, right?
And I would also maybe do 3 months instead of 2. Again, this is like a recruiter one-on-one, taking my HR hat off, like 3 months, 6 months, try and use those blocks versus 2 or 5 to feel like, it's a psychological thing. When recruiters see it, they're like, oh, 3 months seems like a reasonable internship, but you know what I mean? So try and use, I always like the 3, 6, 9, 12 rule and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think in my LinkedIn, I said it's an internship, like because there is a selection where we select whether it's a full-time, part-time internship, and so yeah, I remember I put internship.
Awesome. Can everyone see the link for my resume that I'll just put into the chat?
I had to remove it. I'll put it again. Just give me a second.
Okay. Okay. So what I want to say is about my resume. I have 10 years of experience. I have 12 years of experience working, or 13, you can say, but I have 10 years of recruitment experience. I want you guys to take a look at the layout of my resume, the length of my resume, the detail of my resume. It is not a book. It's 2.5 pages almost. I have a few bullet points. Obviously, it's going to look different if you're in tech, because you're going to want to state what technical tools you've used. But the 15-page, any resume over 3 pages, I'm not going to read. Like, that is just what it is. You are not able to convey in 3 pages what you've done in your work experience. Like, a resume should be a screenshot and a snapshot. It shouldn't be a novel. So the reason of an interview is so you can go in and speak to the resume. So Mia and I worked together last week. She sent me her resume. I took it, put it into ChatGPT. I said, cut it in half and make it more concise. I then reviewed it. We did a little bit of realigning as far as the margins. Like, you'll see everything should be lined up. It should be the same font. All we want to see as like recruiters, clean, fluid resumes with no pictures, no colors. Like, the easier the resume is, unless you're in marketing and then you want to have some sort of creative kind of aspect. But yeah, pictures on a resume, I would take them off. That's one thing that if we want to start with non-biased hiring, like, it shouldn't matter what you look like, what your background is, just your name, phone number, location. Even you could put Canada if you know what I mean, or US. Like, you don't have to get that granular. Always ensure that your LinkedIn profile is also somewhere on your resume, because I think that that's very important as well. Because my CEO right now, if I sent him a resume, the only thing he says is, where's the LinkedIn? Like, LinkedIn is his source of truth. Although LinkedIn for some people isn't like what they take seriously, you should, because that is where people get people to recommend you as well. Recommendations. The first thing I did the day I got laid off, I emailed every single person that I worked with that I said, can you go on LinkedIn and write me a recommendation? I might have 10 of them right now, which again is not a crazy amount, but it just goes to show that people are willing to go online in a public platform and endorse you and endorse your skills. And even right now, you don't have to get laid off. Reach out to people you know, your old boss, coworkers, family, I don't know what it is, but like, go and get your LinkedIn beefed up and make sure that you're active on LinkedIn. And when I mean active, I don't mean you have to post all the time. I barely post. I post once every 3 or 4 months, and normally it's just for really hard to, but I'm constantly engaging with people on my LinkedIn, liking comments, supporting people if they have a job. Like, even if you're looking for a job right now, you don't know if you liking somebody's comment or a job post, they're going to think, oh shit, Neil, he's going to be great for this job. Let me reach out to him. I just saw him on my LinkedIn. Like, you know what I mean? Get your face and your name out there as far as making sure that you connect.
Eleni, let me say something about the LinkedIn, why people are asking for LinkedIn, okay? Very, very simple. You can fix your resume for each job, but you cannot fix your LinkedIn for each job. So your LinkedIn will be the source of truth, right?
100%.
So it's very easy with the technology has not come up yet that you can click a button and change your LinkedIn profile to match the job description every time you apply. But you can do that with ChatGPT with your resume. So when I go for, and that's why I tell people your LinkedIn and resume should not be inconsistent, and your LinkedIn should be something that's a teaser for people to ask you for a full resume, right? Yeah. Don't make your LinkedIn everything, because you don't want the recruiter to make their decision off your profile without having a conversation with you, and you lose the opportunity to put a personal pitch in and promote yourself verbally, right? Right, Eleni? If you find everything on the LinkedIn, you will not go and ask for anybody's resume. You will just make a decision that person doesn't work for us. Although if you have the same person and you have a conversation, it might turn out that they have more details they couldn't display on LinkedIn for any matter, but they were good candidates.
100%. Oh, and I think the one thing too is, like, you should put a few bullet points on what you did. Doesn't need to be extensive, and should not be a copy and paste of your resume, but you should have, I'd say, maybe 3 to 4 points under your job on LinkedIn of what you've done. Another thing you can do, and again, this depends how, I don't want to use the word desperate, but how in need you are of a job. You can also upload your resume onto LinkedIn on like the feature. You have to go to your profile, you can upload it, because then that way, if you do want to get in front of recruiters and it's going to be a matter of resume, they already have it at their disposal. What Mo said, make sure to the month, the day, the job title that your LinkedIn is a mirror of your resume. I love to give people chances, and sometimes I've tried to slither past my hiring managers, people that I know their LinkedIn isn't congruent with what their resume is, and it gets caught 90% of the time. So if you're going to try and change it, it's most likely going to, again, it's going to impact your candidacy because it just is going to come across that you're just not being authentic and genuine. So yeah, I would say that for sure.
Awesome. Definitely, lots of wisdom, lots of insights. I don't want to eat your Sunday, Eleni. We're definitely happy to stay longer. Again, if you guys have questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, I want to give Eleni and folks, their Sunday back.
Definitely. And yes, I took my my phone number off my resume. This is just to share with this group, but when I apply to jobs, I do have my phone number on my resume. So keep your phone number, LinkedIn, and email always on your resume.
And guys, to let you know, and Eleni promised to join the job fair on March 26th, Wednesday, right, Eleni?
Yeah.
And hopefully she will share some jobs again with other recruiters or hiring managers who will join us on the job fair on March 26th. So if you would like to join the job fair on March 26th, I'll put the link again, but you can find it also on LinkedIn on Future Career page. Awesome. Any follow-up, Ghadir, from your side or anyone else?
No, I would like to thank everyone for their insightful thoughts about how to get a job. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, guys, I guess that's it. So stay proud, stay positive. I know it's very hard out there. Oh, Bilal, you have a question? Okay, I'll stop here and let you ask your question.
Hello, good afternoon, Eleni. How are you, Eleni? Sorry, I was in the gym. I'm really sure that I really enjoy what you say, everything. I take my energy from your energy because you are so optimistic. I like it. Just a question. My resume, for example, has as I shared with Engine Ahmed, I have a gaps. These gaps has different kind of role. It should be same, but for example, let's say I'm an engineer. We have communication engineer and IT support or some stuff. Can, for example, if I remove the communication jobs, it will be a lot of gaps. That mean I will lose opportunity for seeking any jobs. Is that fine for seeking, for example, IT jobs only, and I put this stuff's related to the IT only, or should I put like a headlight or some stuff inside this one to avoid the gaps? Thank you.
Yeah, whatever you can do to avoid gaps, I would say that is probably your best course of action. What we don't want, again, like Coach Mo said, is 2 months here, 2 months there, 4 months here. So if there are contracts or if it was a project-based project, then I would definitely keep everything in. Don't just make it like IT specific, because again, who knows if you're gonna in 3 or 4 years, maybe you'll switch a career or in the future. So yeah, I would say keep everything that you have. Just make sure that you're able to show value in the resume on why you kept it there. And then when you actually get interviewed, speak to why you've gone back and forth between like engineering and communications. But I would keep them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, Bilal, I did this switch myself from telecom to IT, and I use transferable skills and transferable experience. So again, there's so many things common between communication and IT. If you can find those common things and just focus on those, again, that would show that you are the best candidate for that role that you're applying for. Again, this is the trick. You have to focus on the job, what they are looking for, and try to show as the best candidate for that one. Awesome.
The concern is my roles a little bit related to the managerial stuff, to make sure that departments, for example, the planning and the the planning and the rollout. For example, I worked as a Orange planning team and rollout team. Finished some jobs related to the projects. I have to make sure that every single time, every single like project, subtitles in the project done specifically in same time. That's kind of concern that I'm looking for. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I was going to say, maybe we'll do this on a follow-up just because I feel like this is going to have to be like a resume review. But Bilal, just email me your resume on LinkedIn and I can take a look and I'll make any comments or changes that I think will help you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I will talk to you later because I'm outside. Thank you so much for this talking.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bilal. Stay positive, stay proud, and stay active at the gym too. Okay. I guess that's it for today. Again, if there is no more questions, we've been very, very happy to have you, Eleni. Definitely lots of wisdom, lots of insights, lots of energy. And again, you're very passionate about what you're doing, and that shows a lot. So, guys, Eleni is giving her Sunday to you to help you. Again, kudos and recommendations on LinkedIn is just a small gesture of you to support this community. So again, it's up to you. You can do this on your own, but definitely it shows how you also care about the other person. So again, this is my few cents here. Any other follow-up final thoughts, Eleni or Neil? I know that Coach Mo and Jonathan dropped, but any final thoughts before we end up here?
No, it's a good time to be applying to jobs. I will just say that every day on LinkedIn, I'm seeing tons of jobs. It's the beginning of the year still. Companies have money, they have budgets. Be proactive. Don't wait for the job to come to you. Go to the job. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Ahmed and I might set up another follow-up call, just like an evening call, probably an hour and a half. Same kind of structure as this, but I know some people can't make it on Sundays. So yeah, I'll be on the 26th, and then we'll probably set up a call maybe a little bit after, maybe mid-April for a follow-up.
Thank you so much, Eleni. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your day. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Have a good day. Thank you
Bye.
for meeting.